Welcome to episode 39, The Soul of Ayurveda, Reverence, Rhythm, and the Wisdom of the Body with Sidharsha Naidoo. This is a very special episode for me because Sidharsha is one of my dear friends and someone who truly embodies the soul and magic of Ayurveda. Being in close proximity to her, I have witnessed so many powerful transformations through her work, and she inspires me greatly. Being around her, I am constantly reminded of the intelligence of the body, the subtle language of our energy, and the reverence we can hold for our life force. In this conversation, we explore Ayurveda not just as a system of prevention, but as a science for the soul, a living, breathing guide for how to honor ourselves, our rhythms, and our deepest intentions. Sidharsha has the ability to translate this ancient wisdom into practical guidance. And in this episode, she really shows how our daily choices, rituals, and awareness of our energies directly shape our well-being. Sidharsha is an Ayurvedic and Sattva Yoga practitioner at her clinic, Atma Ayurveda, in Western Australia. This is a sanctuary where she creates space for transformation, insight, and soulful alignment. In this episode, we dive deep into the soul of Ayurveda and how to tune into your life force, care for your energy, and live with intention in a way that nourishes not just the body, but the spirit. I hope this episode deeply inspires you and reminds you and guides you into a deeper connection with yourself. Welcome, Sidharsha. It is so good to have you here. I first met Sidharsha when I was studying Ayurveda in my first student clinic, and Sidharsha was brought in as someone to aspire to in the Ayurvedic space as a teacher and mentor. So it is full circle having you here. I would love to know if you could introduce yourself and tell us what initially drew you to the practice of Ayurveda and what inspired you to become an Ayurvedic practitioner.
So I have a mixed background. I was born in South Africa, but I'm Indian. I grew up in New Zealand and I've been living in Australia for almost 16 years now. My parents brought me up with a very, very spiritual background. And as I was growing through primary school, intermediate, high school, I was exposed to so many opportunities to just get a little bit curious about health and healing. So it came naturally to me that when it came to choosing my professional career, I wanted to go down the medical pathway. I did my medical science degree. I went on to work for a cardiac company. So I'd go around and I'd teach patients how to use this trans-telephonic cardiac event monitor. But what I would notice was that people kept coming through with not understanding why they've actually got what they've got, why they've got these symptoms and how it accumulated and went unnoticed. And that really got me thinking how there must be some signs that the body would show. So I went to the library one day and I was just reading through a few books and this book on Ayurveda popped up. And as I started reading it, it was like a pivotal moment for me because it sort of integrated my spiritual upbringing and understanding the body. What it basically said was that Ayurveda is a science of life. So it went into talking about when I first started, we were in the Sattva Yoga where there was a lot of sattvic energy around. So people were attuned to the purpose of life. They were loving, caring. There was no greed, no jealousy. Everything was just a very simple life. And as time went by, we moved into an era where more rajasic energy and tamasic energy was prevalent. And this naturally brought about people feeling greed, people feeling anger, comparison, I want this, lust, these really raw, I guess, feelings. These obviously then accumulated toxin in the body. It changed how people thought, how people viewed life, and it took the passion away from the truth and the purpose of life and more into a desire-driven lifestyle, which then accumulated in the body and formed disease. So in this point, people realize that, okay, I'm really not thinking about the purpose of life anymore. I'm struggling to even touch myself, come close to myself. And so they went to the saints and sages at the time and they begged, they pleaded, and they said, please help me, because medicine was a new thing. There was no disease before this time. Yeah. So the sages, they prayed on this, they meditated, and what came through was the Atma Ayurveda, a Sanskrit chant. And then later on, this chant was scribed by Charaka, Sushruta, and Bhagavad, which is our Ayurvedic classical text today. And what these texts go through is describing the intricacies of specific diseases, describing how they came about in the body, describing the methods that would be used to fix this problem, and also treatments and herbs. So it really gave you like a full glimpse of what you would do for disease. It gave you the lifestyle to live to prevent disease. It gave you the understanding of what the mind is, the purpose of life, and how a disease is actually a language teaching you to listen closer in and hear what's going on inside your body to come back closer to that purpose. So this really just, grew a fire in me, and I decided, no, I'm going to go study Ayurveda. And I went to Byron Bay, where I studied my initial Ayurvedic consultation. And I learned this from a guru that had studied through the Gurukul system, so straight from mouth to learning, not through scripting. And then I went on and I learnt my advanced diploma in Ayurvedic medicine, and that was really pivotal for me. It really just consolidated all my understanding, and I watched my body change. I watched my health change, because I had what I would think of as debilitating conditions before this. It would affect my mood, my energy levels, but within a couple months of actually practicing very simple Ayurvedic techniques, they were almost non-existent. So that's where it started.
Yes, they say that you don't find Ayurveda, Ayurveda finds you, and that's the case for you. And could you explain how Ayurveda then views the connection between the mind, body, and spirit? You mentioned the spiritual aspect of it, and I think that the way that I've seen you practice Ayurveda, there is this beautiful spiritual component. And how does treating more of the holistic person from that mind, body, spirit, like how do you do that in your methods?
So I would definitely say that the core of Ayurveda is treating the mind, body, soul, and senses. But when we hear this, like, what does it truly mean? So when our mind is afflicted, like when we have a certain stress that we're going through, what happens is the body produces acid. We see like our shoulders will rise, our body will tense, the body produces lactic acid, but also internally this lactic acid is growing. It's affecting the gut. That gut is then depleting in gut flora. And then you're not able to break down the food. And then if you're not able to break down the food, you can't absorb. So it's a cycle-on effect, because then your health will decline. So that was a stress that life presented to the mind, but now it's affecting the body. When it's affecting the body, you often find that your conviction to the self and motivation for your spirit and your, like, even being able to touch that true self sort of disintegrates. Like, you're not able to quite see clearly. You don't quite feel yourself. So all of these things actually have a follow-on effect, a cascading effect. But it also works the other way. So likewise, stresses in the body can also affect how the mind and the senses work, because say if you've got an injury and you can't go to work, then you're thinking about the financial stress. This is then causing stress and producing acid in your body. So everything is going to link on in that same way. Even senses, I think senses is something that we all struggle with, because what we see is what we want. I want that new perfume, or I want that new car, or like you really start to desire, and then it's almost an obsession that takes over, and you do everything, you strive to get to a certain place in life. But as you do that, you drop away those little self-preservation, self-maintenance things. And so your body starts to decline. So that's the declining of mind, body, soul, and senses. But then if you are focused on, waking up in the morning and doing your meditation, centering yourself, doing your yoga, looking after the body's nutrition, and then starting the day, you are automatically strengthening all your systems. You're looking after your mind. You're looking after your soul, your body. And so when something happens in life that is sort of throwing you off balance, you're able to bring yourself back a lot quicker. So this is the framework that I do use day in and day out to treat my clients, because for example, if a client came in with pain behind their shoulder blade, there's two things that would pop up in my mind. Oh, is there an injury? Is there a postural problem here? But then working on it, and because I practice meditation and because I tune into myself, I'm able to feel, okay, is this tightness actually coming from a physical problem, or is this tightness more related to an emotional aspect? And behind the shoulder blade there, it represents not being in tune with what your soul or your body, your consciousness is telling you to do. And you're allowing the external material world to say, no, you shouldn't do that. Have a bit of fear. Don't go there. But actually, like, what you really desire doing, and that purest desire is being hindered by this problem. So you're able to see these little nuances. So that's just the shoulder blade, the point. But we have all these different marma points in our body, and they're all energy centers, and they all store heavy energy. If you're holding it, it's going to store it. And so when you're tapped in, you're able to actually feel what's going on there. So in the body, that's how I would use my meditation and the knowledge that I've gained to actually find where the imbalance is, mind, body, soul. But then there's also the consultation where I'd go through such detail to be able to see, is this imbalance coming from food, or is it coming from stress, or is it coming from other like desires? And then we'd be able to then tailor or bring awareness to the client to be able to tailor their path to recovery.
I love that. And the fact that you see now in a lot of literature and books that are coming out, the body keeps the score. And it's something that Ayurveda has been known for thousands of years. And we're just starting to tap into that now. So I love how Ayurveda is already quite advanced, or is the most advanced in that way. What do you think the soul of Ayurveda is?
and beyond the herbs and the oils and the treatments, because like you said, there is that extensive consultation process within Ayurveda. It's usually around 90 minutes where you talk about, like you mentioned, the physical components, but also more of the emotional aspects and even upbringing. What do you think the soul of Ayurveda really is?
Oh, for me, on my journey of Ayurveda, I would definitely say life force or prana. And this has hit so hard. It's a piece of, I learned all about energy or electrical energy in my medical science degree, and the synapses that occur, how in the heart we have all of this electrical energy. But I feel like it hasn't been tapped the way Ayurveda has tapped it. I always like to ask my clients, what is the difference between my live body in this moment and my dead body in the next moment? It's a very trippy question, but it really gets you thinking. The only difference is this electrical energy. So when someone has a heart attack, they're depleted in this electrical energy, or their electrical circuit has been cut. So what happens when they get electrocuted or electric shock with the paddles is that this energy circuit comes back. You're recircuiting the system. And if the person has enough electrical energy, they will come back to life. But if their lifestyle or their diet has been in such a way that this electrical energy is depleted, then they won't. We see the same thing with neural synapses. This electrical energy is pivotal. We have our whole nervous system that is just a function of electrical energy that's moving. Now, we can feed this electrical system. It's just not an area that I feel has enough attention, and I hope that Ayurveda can bring a lot more attention to it. So if you were to pick an apple from a tree, you'd be able to observe the ripening process, and you'll be able to observe the denaturing process. So in this ripening process, there is still active electrical energy. And when denaturing starts, this energy is depleting. So if we were to eat fresh fruit and vegetables, we're actually consuming and fueling our body's electrical energy system. So we have rasa, rakta, mamsa, meda, asti, majja, and shukra. This is our immune system, our blood, our muscle, our fat, our brain matter, our bone tissue, and our reproductive system. Once all of these tissues have received enough energy through the food, we produce something called ojas. And ojas is your ability to remain fulfilled. No matter what life throws at you, your ups and downs, you'll remain fulfilled. But if you're not providing your body with enough life force, these tissues start to slowly deplete. If your asti tissue, your bone tissue, was not getting enough of this electrical energy, or life force, then what happens is arthritis comes to rise. So looking after the energetic system as well as the physical system is so crucial to maintaining health and longevity. So life force would be my answer to that.
Beautiful. There's a few things that I want to touch on there, especially I love that you mentioned the heart, because I was just listening to something yesterday from the Heart Institute, and they're now doing all these studies on just how powerful the heart is, because we've always given so much credence to the brain and how incredible that is. And I think that the heart is having the moment now. They were saying that they got people in a room and they were showing them different images. And so the brain registering and also the heart registering the images. And the fascinating thing that I found out was that the brain, you know, if they saw something not so great, then the brain responded. But the heart responded to the image of horror before it was actually shown on the screen. It could, and that just shows you how incredible, like we haven't even tapped into how much the heart can perceive. Absolutely. That is not, we're not able to describe yet. Mm-hmm. So I love that you've touched on the heart. I also wanted to come back to the electrical system. So because I love this concept, can you go into, so our listeners can really understand what you're talking about when we talk about prana? So if we went and picked a lemon right now off the tree, when you pick it, just so I've got this right, when you pick it, it's no longer connected to that life force energy. Mm-hmm. So you want to consume it like right away, right? Mm-hmm. That is the ultimate. And so with our agricultural system now, more and more of our food source is getting removed from that prana source. Yeah. And so this, when we come back to feeding those different energetic types in our body, you're saying that this is being depleted because of that length in time. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So as you see the ripening process, that's when active energy is still within this fruit or vegetable. But then the denaturing process starts, you start to see the blemishes on the fruit or the vegetable. And that's when it's only providing you with what I like to call building blocks. So it's got the carbohydrates, the sugar, the fats, it's got all of the nutrients that we know and we have studied in Western medicine, but it doesn't have that prana or that life force. So yes, the fresher you get your food, the better it is. So if anyone wants to start planting their own gardens,
yes, I
highly, highly recommend it. It's interesting because when we talk about packaged food and preserved food and frozen food, especially frozen food, I get a lot of kickback on this because they say snap frozen. And so when you defrost it, the life force still remains. No, that's incorrect. Snap frozen is just freezing the nutrients at that point. So it's not actually killing the nutrients that are within that food, but the life force is still depleting. And an animal, meat. So when an animal is killed, animals function very similar to the human body. So as soon as they've been killed, the life force is gone. So all you're getting from that food then is, again, just building blocks. But with meat, what then happens is that there's all of the poor farming of the animals and chemicals and hormones, and even what the animals can be consuming a lot of the time that develops toxin within the meat. So you're not just getting building blocks, you're also getting the toxin. Mm-hmm. And so your body is having to struggle. Digestion needs electrical energy, or it needs energy to break down, to absorb the nutrients within food. But now you're putting something in it, and if you're already depleted, you're using from a depleted system more energy so that you can break down and access the nutrients from this food. So is it beneficial, or is it just draining your system out? Is the question.
When it comes back to the tissue states that you mentioned, when we are feeding those tissues, and can you explain how it goes in order? So if we don't have enough nutrients, it's not then feeding down to maybe the bone. And you said lastly, the reproductive system, which is something that our modern society is now dealing with. So maybe a root cause could potentially be like that nutrients, that electrical current, like you said, not reaching down to the reproductive tissue state.
Absolutely. So I mentioned the order that it goes in, but this life force doesn't always follow this order.
Okay.
So if your environment is such that you're eating foods that are directly affecting your fat system, then the fat tissue is going to directly be affected with life force energy as well. So the life force can be depleted from any of these tissues. So the order is not as important, but what you'll see is that when one system starts to deplete, it requires more of the life force the next time, which then leaves less life force for the other tissues, especially if you look at a plate and you see, well, my meal has one section of fresh food and the rest, well, that was frozen and that came from a packet. So the only life force you're getting here, but you're expecting to feed a whole system. So this depletion can come depending on where you're putting your energy. If you're burning out your, say, sexual energy, for example, you're overusing a certain system in your body, that system is going to be the one that presents first in denaturing.
Okay, thank you. What advice would you give someone then looking to start utilizing Ayurvedic principles to really achieve that overall like well-being? Is that where you would start with the food, or with more of like the lifestyle? I guess you want to do all of it, but what would you say?
So it is tricky because when you start reading about Ayurveda, there's just so much that comes up. But that, I guess, is the beauty again of Ayurveda, is it saw that this could potentially be a problem, and it provided us with something called dinacharya, which means daily routine. So it gives you a breakdown, a time breakdown of when you should be waking up in the morning, what you should be doing after you wake up, how you should be looking after the body. So if you were to Google dinacharya today, you'd get a chart that would say waking up before 6 a.m., doing meditation, doing oil massage, creating a sweat in the morning, having a shower, having a breakfast, moving on to more productive or life work activities, going for a walk after lunch, having dinner before sunset, and then winding down your day by 8 o'clock and lights out by 10 p.m. All of this is simple to follow. But if you actually want to look deeper into this, you'll find that everything has a purpose. This whole timing system has a purpose. If we look at how time is split up, Ayurveda splits time into thirds. So from 10 to 2 is Pitta time, from 2 to 6 is Vata time, and from 6 to 10 is Pitta time, is Kapha time. So you want to wake up in Vata time early in the morning before 6 a.m. That is when your mind is at the best energy for spiritual contemplation, for coming in, finding that clarity. If you're waking up after 6 a.m., you'll find you hit a bit of a sluggish lull or a fatigue, and it takes you a couple hours, or you absolutely need that coffee to get moving. But if you were to wake up in Vata time, meditate, the Kapha time that you then move into is actually endurance and stamina. So that's when you're actually going to be able to get your best gym workout and get your best sweat happening and release the toxins from your body. So it presents differently when you use it differently. So even when you're going to bed at night, Ayurveda says you need to be asleep by 10 p.m. What happens in this Pitta time from 10 to 2 is that Pitta is an active process. So what's happening is the body is going through its mitosis. It's healing all of the organs that have been working for you, digesting for you, eliminating toxin for you, urinating for you through the day. And if you're not sleeping by 10, then you're not allowing all of these systems to recover and reset. You'll find that different parts of that time as well relate to different systems in the body. So if you're sleeping late, what you're really telling your body is, well, it doesn't matter about my recovery or my well-being. I'm just going to push through and create cellular damage. So everything in this dinacharya is thought out and has a specific reason behind it. But if you're looking for a place to start, follow that simple routine and you'll see naturally everything aligns. Once you're following a certain routine, your productivity will increase. You'll naturally be inclined to eating at the right times. You'll crave the right foods because the system is in a more healthy path.
Yes, and I think that is such beautiful practical advice because, you know, when you do in the morning sleep in a little bit and you go into the next phase, into the kapha, it is so hard to get up. And you do. And it doesn't make sense because you're like, I've slept longer, so I should be feeling more refreshed. But yes, when you get up in that vata time window, you do feel like you've got that energy and that more of that creative mind energy force. And then same with the evening. I know when I was in corporate, you know, so tired, but then if you go into that pitta late at night, then you get that second wind.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you keep working. Yeah. And then, like you say, it's those modern lifestyle, and that's what Ayurveda really preaches. It's being mindful and conscious of those choices that you're making, because I think a lot of this pushing and going against our natural urges and what feels good in the body, we kind of like override it and we're like, oh, it's okay. Like it's just this one time. And then it becomes this habit where, you know, and it gets in that danger zone of that accumulation of doing those life choices. So yeah, I love that Ayurveda has this, like, I guess it's devotional, but it's prescriptive.
Yeah, it is. Having discipline is important. And what it shows you is that you do need to have a certain sense of discipline about how you look after this body that's actually helping us speak and walk and create and be productive. We often take the body for granted. And by just fixing certain routines into our lifestyle, which really doesn't take a lot of time, you're actually making yourself more productive. It's conducive to the best life that you could lead.
Beautiful. Is there any food principles or advice you could share that to implement without having an Ayurvedic consultation? Is there any more general advice that you would give to someone when it comes to what to eat and what not to eat? And don't say anything about coffee.
Okay. So Ayurveda has sort of imprinted this image on my mind that the sun, as the sun rises, your digestive system is increasing. When you hit midday, your digestive system is at its peak. And as the sun is setting, your digestive system is turning off. This simple technique alone, when it comes to food, will change how your body functions and how you just feel internally. So in the morning, when the sun is rising and this digestive fire is rising, you need to give your body light, easy, digestible food so that it can kindle this digestive fire. So you don't want to put heavy, wet, fatty foods on it at this time, because it's just going to put the fire out. You just want to give it a light kindling. Then at lunchtime, when your digestive fire is at its peak, you want to have your heaviest foods. So that's when you want to have your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates, things that are going to give you accessible energy but keep you sustained. And then in the evening, you want to have your dinner before sunset. If you're having dinner after sunset, what's going to happen is your system is going to be confused. Do I digest food now, or do I slow down to heal now? And then often you'll find that your bowel motions the next day will not be proper bowel motions, because your food has not been able to be digested or broken down because the digestive fire was lacking. But also, if you're eating after sunset, this is going to affect how you sleep as well, because your body's got energy. It's got this active energy that's happening from the food. So you really need to follow this pattern. Otherwise, you're actually causing a little bit more trauma to the system. Mixing yogurt with fruits and vegetables, or dairy with fruits and vegetables, is another big no-no in Ayurveda, because if we were to take like a test tube of milk and a test tube of lemon juice, representing all the fruits and vegetables because of the acidic component in them, and we mix them, this milk is going to curdle. And that's happening in our system. So you're getting this curdled milk, which is then going to produce acidity in the system and what we call ama, or toxin. And leaving this ama and toxin in your system is actually going to cause disease. So avoid mixing dairy with fruit and vegetables. We don't have water 30 minutes before a meal and 30 minutes after a meal. If we're having it before the meal, we're diluting our digestive fire, so our digestive capacity decreases. And if we're having it after a meal, we're doing the same thing. We're cooling the system down. When the fire is like kindling and burning through this food, we're putting it off. And so digestion struggles a little bit more. If you don't have an appetite before a meal, especially if you're now trying to eat at regular intervals and your appetite is just not there, having a thin slice of ginger with a little bit of salt will actually stimulate that agni, or digestive fire, so that you can eat within 15 to 20 minutes of doing that.
And so my key takeaways from this is having the largest meal in the middle of the day when the sun is the highest, having your dinner before sunset. And I think there's so much conflicting messaging out, now with the age of information. And what I love about Ayurveda is that it has always, how all these trends and all these fads come in, and Ayurveda has been saying the same thing for like thousands of years.
Yes.
Of like, don't combine these things, eat at this time. When it comes to the breakfast, it's really interesting what you say about not having like those heavy foods, because straight away I think about like this tradition of having eggs in the morning, and so how that would be considered in Ayurveda as heavy.
Yes.
And so having something like, what is your go-to breakfast?
Okay, so I would have an oat porridge, and I'd often pair this with cooked apples with cinnamon. I would have an overnight chia or oat pudding. I would have sourdough toast with a little bit of avocado, lots of lemon juice, salt and pepper. I could blending oats with a little bit of semolina water, ginger and some spices, and then just cooking it off on a pan like a pancake even is a healthier version of having your traditional pancake. And you can have a sweet version and a savory version. And so there's really different options that you can have. It's just a little bit of application and thinking. I find that's where people struggle, is that they run out of options. What's the quick go? Definitely found overnight oats the quickest for me, because it's something I can just put together in the evening and it's ready for me in the morning.
Sidharsha's cookbook is coming out soon because I know I need it. Could you share with us, I know it's quite hard to share patient stories, like confidentiality and everything, but is there a memorable success story that you have had, or a transformational experience with a client through your Ayurvedic practice that you have seen that you could share with us?
It's hard to talk about one specific thing, but a few that I feel like were very beautiful for me to watch was when I had a patient with a thyroid condition, and then working through the emotional factors that actually are behind a thyroid condition, and then a few detox programs. The doctor actually took this patient off thyroxine, and that's quite unheard of. I've had patients that extreme period pain, not having period pain anymore, cholesterol or uric acid decreasing significantly. I've had patients, even when it comes to treatments, physical treatments, I've had patients with huge swelling in their legs, especially after traveling, or elderly people after traveling, and this huge swelling, but all they're told is to just rest. But we have a treatment in Ayurveda called Ruksha Sweda, and this is actually a drying treatment. It pulls the inflammation out of the system. And so within an hour of doing the treatment, the patient can stand and walk without pain. So I had lots of little things like this, even frozen shoulder. That was probably one of my first treatments that I would get so many of, because I had an injury in my shoulder myself. And I had to work on the emotional aspects of what a frozen shoulder was. And as I was doing that, I got so many different patients that presented with frozen shoulder, and I got to play with the tissue, feel the emotion, and within 3 months rehabilitate some of these patients, where frozen shoulder with Western medicine that we have today will take up to or more than a year to fix a frozen shoulder and get full mobility back.
Yes, and it's very interesting with that, because what my teacher would say in Ayurveda is, when you're going to Western medicine, if you need to go down that pathway, then for frozen shoulder, for example, the injections that you get, then having to heal from what that injection has created in your body. There's no, any of these quick fixes, not getting to the root cause. And that's what I love about Ayurveda and the magic of it. And from my own experience, I guess you will know this well, but when my husband had a rally motor accident, he had a lot of trauma where the steering wheel went into his leg. And I would, say to the doctors, what does he do, with this mass, how can he reduce it? And there was, it shocked me that they had no understanding of how to fix that. And if I didn't know you and Ayurveda and these, you know, the magic of it, because it really helps with healing deeply. Can you speak to that? Because when it comes to Ayurveda, it's kind of like people get to Ayurveda when they've like explored all the other options and they're desperate and they don't know what to do. And so I can imagine you see a lot of people that are at the end going like, do anything because, yeah, help me.
Absolutely. Most of my patients have come to me for that reason, and then they tell other people, oh, I actually got this fixed because I went to this, and you know, just have an open mind and go for it. But it works. It undeniably works every time, and it's about going down like the intricacies of Ayurveda. Is it teaches you to be in tune with yourself, to feel, is this tightness? Is this inflammation? Is this dryness and wearing out of the tissue? Is this emotional? What is the texture that is felt in this tissue? And then it gives you, if it's dry, do Ruksha Sweda. If there's inflammation, do Ruksha Sweda. If there's sinus congestion, do Nasya treatment. If there's the dryness in the tissue after an injury and you're needing to re-lubricate this tissue, use Pinda Sweda. So if there's an affliction of the mind or insomnia, depression, do Shirodhara. If you need to come back to yourself and center yourself, do Shirodhara. So it has these beautiful, energetic, but also so blatantly obvious principles that is just not tapped upon. Like I always tell my patients when they ask me, well, how is this Ruksha Sweda or bag of rice with salt and herbs going to help me? I will say, well, similar to how if you wet your phone, you go and put it in rice and that will extract the water for it. With salt, we learn about osmosis and it extracts the water from it. So likewise, our skin is porous, our tissue is porous, and so we can help to extract that water. Inflammation, for some reasons, are important because it's sending immune cells to fix the problem that's happening. And sometimes you need to stabilize it with all of that inflammation. But beyond a certain point, or an accumulation of inflammation and lack of circulation is not going to remove this fluid that's stuck. And so using treatments like Ruksha Sweda will work very quickly.
Yes, the magic. Yes, I love how you've explained that. In your experience, what are some of the misconceptions that you would say you've heard about Ayurveda, and how do you address them? Or, what is the most common thing that you hear?
So when people start learning about Ayurveda, you learn about the doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And then you learn that Vata people have a more slender figure and will lose weight quickly. They won't carry weight. And their mind is very wavering. It's a creative mind, but it can be here and then it can be there. And then we learn about Pitta having a more medium-built frame, having sharper features and having hot or cold, hot extremities. The Vata has cold extremities. And then if we're learning about Kapha, they have broader, stronger frame, body type. They have more squared off type face and thick or curly, luscious sort of hair. But they're also slower in nature and can have much more endurance or strength. they will put on weight easily and struggle to lose weight. This is like the natural sort of physical features, but also mental features of these doshas. Now, all of us are made of a certain percentage, vata, pitta, and kapha. And at our balanced form, we exhibit beautiful characteristics. But in our imbalanced form, which is called our vikriti, we exhibit qualities. For vata would present in constipation, anxiety, depression, irritability. Pittas would present in hyperacidity, loose motions, quick to anger. Kapha would present in a very like sluggish, lethargic, almost lazy demeanor to life. So when people go and do these Ayurvedic quizzes online, they get a bit confused. Am I vata? Am I pitta? Am I kapha? And then they start to judge themselves. What I'd like people to know is that the prakriti is perfect and beautiful as you were designed. It's only the aggravative state that you change. So understand the difference between what the aggravated state is and the natural state is, because if you look at your say sharp features in your face and say, oh, okay, well, I'm pitta, so I'm only going to feed myself with pitta food because then I'm looking after my body. But actually, you're got vata aggravation right now. So if you're feeding yourself pitta foods, you're actually going to dry yourself out more and create more vata aggravation, and then accumulation and disease. So really understanding the difference has been something that I've worked with. People think Ayurveda has Indian origins, and so the diet that they're going to have to eat is all going to be Indian food. And this is absolutely not the case. When I'm looking to create my meal, I'm actually looking to pacify all my doshas and pacify any nutritional depletions that I might have, and tick off all of the building blocks that my body requires in terms of its nutrients, carbohydrates, fats. So my meal would have a root vegetable. It would have a leafy green. It would have a protein. It would have a carb. It would have a small source of fat, and it would have digestive spices in it. Now, if you look at that, the spices you pick or the herbs you choose is what's going to flavor this meal. Just because the roots were from India, it doesn't mean that all of the recipes that were prescribed are the only recipes you follow. It gives us all of the tools and the understanding of the herbs so that we can utilize them and create any cuisine. Ayurveda is not for one specific group of people. It is for everyone. And play with your taste, play with your flavor palette, and create a beautiful meal.
Yes. Thank you for going into those misconceptions. Yes, I noticed with the prakriti of what you're actually being born with, that constitution, and then that vikriti, how far, you've strayed depending on your lifestyle or other factors. And then that about the Indian food. Yeah. So is it true that you can even make a pizza Ayurvedic?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. In your opinion then, what role can Ayurveda play in addressing more of the modern health challenges that we have in focusing on, for me, Ayurveda has, yes, it can do the healing and it can do the root cause healing, but I think what is not spoken about a lot about Ayurveda is how it can be a very preventative healthcare system. Like you said, with a dinacharya, like there's lots of protocols that we can do. I just think about the oral health, that is becoming big now. So the oil pulling, the tongue scraping, these are all Ayurvedic origins that are coming in, and all of that is from preventative, right? So what is this? Are you seeing more of this now, how, modern times are requiring this, and what is the preventative care that Ayurveda can provide?
This is something that I think about so often, and it's something that I really want to bring out into the world a little bit more. Ayurveda has 6 stages of diagnosis or understanding disease progression. We have accumulation, we have aggravation, we have migration, then we have localization, manifestation. Manifestation is where modern medicine would pick up disease, because that's when it's tangible. You can see it and play with it. And then there's complication after that as well. So for each stage that Ayurveda shows us, it will say that, okay, well, when you're in your accumulation phase, these are the symptoms that you're going to have. When you're in your aggravation stage, these are the symptoms that you're going to have. So I would like to see that education coming out on what these symptoms are and then how you can address them very quickly, because then you're preventing the rest of it from happening.
Yes, and I think about this a lot with my mum and her progression of her disease state, you know, only finding Ayurveda after, but now having some of that Ayurvedic knowledge, I can see years and years before where there was some signs that there was, you know, disruption in those like states that you're talking about that you would have been able to pick up. So it's like you said, that education, having that understanding, so then it doesn't progress to the next stage and then snowball and get bigger.
Absolutely. The other thing that I would really love is that education for children around food. Because when I was young and just learning about food and taste and what's good for me, I didn't really have any guidance. I was just eating the sweet stuff or the sugary things that all my friends were eating, or that the supermarket has, you know, aisles and aisles of all this packaged food. And I thought, it's got to be good for me. I want to taste it. I want to have that. And I enjoy having that because it has like addictive qualities in it. But what I didn't have was really, well, how is this food going to actually impact my body? How am I going to be better for eating this food? Now, like, you know, as you age, you sort of become more aware of, oh gosh, I probably shouldn't have eaten so much, you know, junk food when I was growing up. And now it's important to me. But if that education was there when I was younger, I would have leached onto it so quickly. And I find even, you know, the kids of clients that I'm working with, if they're coming and they're sitting with their mom or dad and they're listening to all of this, they actually go home and they say, no, but we're not supposed to do that. And then they're driving their own health, that curiosity, that learning, it's empowerment. And I just want to empower young children, adults, just anyone seeking this knowledge about being able to help the body, fuel the body.
Yes, and when you've experienced that, when you have that awareness first, and then you do experience like eating something that is maybe not as prana filled, you know what that feels like.
Immediately.
Yeah. But it's like sometimes we need to be consciously aware that that is even impacting us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, from there. So I love that you're putting that intention out there for children to start absorbing that, because that's where it all snowballs, right? The rest of their life. Like such a good setup for them.
Yeah. And it's not unachievable as well. Like we think, oh, well, I'm going to have to follow all the principles all the time. That means I can't go out with friends or family or just, just socialize normally. But that's so incorrect. What you do in your quiet time, how you nourish your soul, and how you nourish your body is so important in stabilizing yourself. So then when you go out and you eat that bad food, you already sort of know what your body is going to do in response. And so when you come back home, you can take the precautionary measures. And Ayurveda has different herbs and different combinations of spices that you can take after that. That's actually going to help your body deal with what it's been through. But it'll also just give you the awareness of making healthier choices. And you can see this now in restaurants that you go to. You get so many different options for vegan food. You can sort of pick what's healthier when you start knowing and understanding your body a little bit better.
What trends or developments do you anticipate in the field of Ayurveda? And how do you see Ayurveda evolving in the future? I see Shirodhara becoming really popular. My own selfish reasons. So Shirodhara is the continuous oil poured on the third eye. It's one of my favorite treatments.
Yeah.
But it's also good for the nervous system, the obviously brain health, hair health. Like it just ticks all the boxes for me, but that might be more of like the Vata state.
Absolutely. I would love for treatments, Ayurvedic treatments, to be like your first go-to when you've got an injury or when you know you can prevent something from getting worse. I'd love to see Ayurveda treatments used in recovery. Even when it comes to like diet, like we were just talking about, I'd love to see the awareness around that. And a trend that could be quite interesting is, something I always teach my patients. Well, if you want to understand your body, go look at your eyes in the morning, and look what is the color of my sclera doing, because Ayurveda gives you hints through your eyes, through your tongue, through your nails, through your bowel motion. So actually teach people what to look for in their eyes, or if they put their tongue out in the mirror after brushing their teeth in the morning, do I have a coating on my tongue? That means there's ama present. Are there little cracks on my tongue? That means there's vata aggravation. Is there a deep groove in my tongue? That means there's chronic vata aggravation and possibly even severe back injury. Is there teeth marks on the side of my tongue? This is malabsorption. Is there a red line lining the tip of my tongue? This is sugar malabsorption. So Ayurveda gives you all of these things, and I would love to see that trending, people just paying attention to the language of the body.
I love that, because so much of our modern science now, it's like getting the blood test, and yes, absolutely. Like that is, I'm not saying not do that, but like you're saying, there's these subtle signs that the body, I love how you put it, the language of the body is showing you, and knowing this is, how you can make those tweaks. And I think another trend that is hopefully Ayurveda is going to be in the front runner of is brain health. Like I think, like you said, a lot of preventative methods there, but I do see a lot of the therapies really focusing on, the health of the brain and how important that is. And I see, a lot of Alzheimer's, a lot of dementia, and that cognitive impairment. Do you see that as something that Ayurveda as a
Absolutely. We're taught when we're preparing medication for a client to look at what the symptoms are that they're having So we address their symptoms, we address their digestive system and how they're absorbing the food or breaking down the food, and we address the mind. So Ayurveda has a variety of different herbs, some that will, create stimulation for those that are fatigued, stimulate the mind and give you that ability to concentrate and focus. We have herbs that are able to calm the mind down. We have herbs that will allow you to see what your insecurities are. See the heavy things that you're carrying as baggage in your mind, to offload it. A lot of the time when the mind begins to decline, it's because we've got all of this space in our head that's filled with trauma. We've got a lack of life force or prana, and we just don't know what to do with it. Ayurveda will not only show you what to do, but give you the tools to be able to manage this. A lot of people don't address what's happening with the mind, and I think going through and diving into someone's trauma with them has been quite inspiring part of what I do, because people don't recognize the patterns that they're going through, and they just keep asking, why do I keep going through this? Why do I keep going through this? But when they were a kid, they might have perceived something wrong, a lack of love, for example, when a parent was just trying to discipline. And so they assumed it was lack of love, but actually it was extreme love, that the parent was trying to guide the child in a different way, maybe not using a technique that the child is familiar with. And so they thought, I'm not loved. And then you go into the next stages of life thinking, I'm not loved. So there's a dissociation between you and other people. But actually, that fundamental wiring was wrong. So over your life, you're accumulating all of this baggage based on an event in your past that was incorrect. And so being able to detox this through Ayurvedic methods, through understanding, really diving into yourself, into your awareness, and meditation, being able to still the mind, like deciphering, is this coming from ego, or is this coming from love? How did this build me into a stronger person? What is a better outlook I can have? Because then that one situation that happened way back then can actually be your greatest strength, because it taught you the most profound lessons. But until you stop and actually look at what it is, you're unlikely to see it, and you're more likely to just wear out all of this brain space by baggage.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you see in Ayurveda that is being misused, or like when it comes to the prescription of herbs and things like that? Is there any like cautionary things that you would say as like a general? Because I see, like, as Ayurveda becomes more mainstream, like, perhaps like over prescription, something that's not quite right for your constitution. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Turmeric is a big one that everyone knows about.
Yes.
Turmeric is very drying and very heating. So it dries out inflammation, and that's why it is good for certain conditions. But then if you take too much turmeric, it's going to further exacerbate your condition. When the body sees, take, for example, arthritis, if you use turmeric for the inflammation there, then it will remove some of the inflammation, but it'll also create more dryness. With Ayurvedic combinations, we'll always balance the medication out. So if we've got something in that's heating and drying, we're balancing it out with something that's cooling, so that this doesn't happen. So there are many different ways. When you have a lack of understanding of a herb, you'll just keep taking something and without knowing be causing more harm to the body. Had a client years ago that thought, I just need to work on my nervous system. And she was actually trying to get pregnant as well. So she was taking ashwagandha because there's a lot of talk about ashwagandha and how it calms your nervous system down. But ashwagandha is also stimulating of testosterone. And so it makes it more difficult for the female hormones to work properly, and you're unlikely to get pregnant if you're taking ashwagandha. So there's a lot of different herbs that more awareness is needed for. And Western medicine, Western science is beautiful in isolating or understanding why these herbs work for the reasons Ayurveda is saying that it works. But isolating parts of it and then taking it as well is not accurate. We should be taking the whole herb because that's how nature designed it. It's going to pacify bits. It's going to help you digest different parts of the herb. Whereas if you're just taking one part, you're more likely to have an excess of something growing.
I feel this is so important because I see this in Western medicine around, because Ayurveda is getting that popularity now. But I see with turmeric, for example, I've seen tablets on the shelf, just the curcumin, which is the extract from the turmeric. And I see it as Ayurveda has these beautiful whole herbs, because when you take the whole herb, it's kind of like giving the GPS signal to your body about how to break it down, what to do with it, where it needs to go, how it needs to be absorbed. But then if you're just like you say, if you're extracting one part of the herb, it's kind of incomplete. And it's like, how does your body know what to do with that? So I feel that is, really important to understand and be mindful of.
Yeah. There are certain herbs that by all means take and it's going to be good for your body. Like triphala, that's actually a tridoshic combination. And so it's going to help people with vata, pitta, and kapha aggravation, help them break down the food, help them absorb the food, improve their immune systems. It's designed to do so many things. So that's a safe combination. I would say anyone can take this, and your body actually gives you a sign to say, you don't need to take it anymore. You're all good, because the flavor of triphala is very bitter. But then when your body is at balance with it, then it becomes sweet. It actually changes. So if you understand a herb, then you'll understand how to take it.
Yes, and I think that's important too, because yes, Ayurveda says, you don't need to take these herbs forever or for a long period of time. Like you say, the qualities of triphala will change when your body no longer requires it. Still very bitter for me. Still very strong. Still taking my triphala. And so, I think that's another thing, because sometimes we get so programmed to be like, oh, I need to keep taking this herb daily. But again, coming back to that conscious consumption of what we're putting in our body. If you could share one truth about healing that you wish everyone could understand, what would it be?
I think it would be diving back into the emotions again. and really looking at what you've learned from your journey, looking at how you've come out stronger, appreciating who you've been through different phases of your life and who you are now, really getting true with yourself, discarding all the parts of you that are not functioning out of the pureness of your heart, what doesn't align with you. And I think the biggest thing, like watching my own life and my clients, I think discipline. Discipline is something that all of us need. Discipline is something that all of us really need to have, because it allows you to function better. It allows you to say no when you need to say no. It allows you to say yes when you need to push through your own mind, fear, barriers. And sadhana, like sadhana is what you do in the background. It's how you nourish your soul. It's how you do things that, you're not posting about your meditation on social media. You're not, showing off that I'm having, my herbs every day, or I'm eating this meal every day. It's the things that you do for your self-healing. And also it's like service to the body and service to the mind. Meditation and yoga are so key as well, because they bring you back to centering yourself. I went to do a yoga course in India, and it was such a mind expanding experience. It was a place called Sattva Academy. And what we learned there was through your own sadhana and yoga with the body, you can prepare yourself for being strong and confident. You can prepare yourself for being passive and calm. Yoga, through its warrior poses and warrior breath, gets you in tune with what anxiety or stress feel like. And so when you're presented with it again, you can know how to control it, because you've taken your body there and you've brought it back. So there's a lot more to yoga and pranayama and meditation than we're aware of. So I would love people to explore the depths of what it actually means. Don't just practice it mindlessly. Explore the depths and feel so much more, because it allows you to expand your mind, understand yourself, and function more highly than you could imagine that you could function.
Thank you, Sidharsha. Is there anything else that you would like to say that we haven't covered here?
There's a story that I like to share. And I think it's a story that really changed how I moved through trauma. There was a man, and he was a very spiritual man, and within the space of a few months, he lost both his wife and his son, and it completely shattered him. And he didn't know what to do. He was just in dismay. He couldn't work and function properly. And one day, he started hearing this word, goldsmith, 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 repeat in his mind. And he didn't know why he was hearing it. He has nothing to do with goldsmith. But when he'd sleep, he'd hear it. When he'd eat, he'd hear it. If he's walking down the street, he'd hear it. And so one day he was walking down a street and he saw a goldsmith store. So he walked into the store and he told the goldsmith, just tell me something, tell me anything. And the goldsmith says, I don't know what to tell you. And he says, well, I don't know, just tell me anything. And the goldsmith goes into describing how gold is made. He says, gold is blown up rock, and then it's cracked and it's chiseled to get the little pieces of gold out. And then there's still all this impurity in it. So then it's put into this boiling hot furnace and all the impurities are melted away, stripped away. And then still it's in a raw form that gold is then molded, and then it's filed, and then it's shone and it's buffed, and then it becomes that ring that you wear on your finger today, this beautiful shining gold. And I think that's beautiful, because we all go through these moments of deep turmoil and asking ourselves, why am I going through this? But when you come out the other side and you're a better person than you ever thought you could be, then all of that turmoil was so worth it. So like, if anyone out there is going through something difficult, just know and believe that you're going to come out the other end shining and find all of the beauty and luster within yourself.
Thank you, Sidharsha. Could you tell our listeners where to find more information about you?
I do have an Instagram. My clinic is called Atma Ayurveda, and I've put up my website now as well. And you can also find that at Atma Ayurveda.
Thank you, Sidharsha. It has been such a pleasure, and this won't be the last time that we have you on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Star Being. May the wisdom shared resonate in your soul. Until next time, stay connected and keep reaching for the stars. This is Star Being signing off.